in many ways, Ernest Becker was a classic outsider. He's positioned himself and been positioned outside traditional disciplines, outside the conventional academy, and the dominant American culture of his time. I said something like that earlier. Again, his experiences in his family of origin in World War II and the American embassy in Paris ensured that he was well acquainted with the evil of the Holocaust in particular. His lifelong interest in human motivation, why we do the things we do, what can and should we do within our condition, all of this set him on a search for a full and rich understanding of human nature and our living condition, something strangely absent from so much academic inquiry during his lifetime and now. It's still absent in the most part. His terminal illness, I think, actually did interact more than I previously thought with his final writing and editing of The Denial of Death and Escape from Evil, especially with certain respects of what some have referred to as his dark turn, or more appropriately what Dan and I have described in a recent article that's about to be published in the Journal of Humanistic Psychology, his darker deepening. But I think this was a necessary move in rounding out his philosophical anthropology, his anthropodicee, as much as he could in the time that was left to him. I think he died true to himself. And his work to me is extremely interactive with his life. Both incorporate each other. I was saying to Greg earlier that if you look at the pronoun structure in some of these extended quotes from Becker, I don't have time to run through this, but do it yourself. You'll see him move from an I pronoun to a you pronoun and then to a he pronoun. Ideally a he, she pronoun or even a they pronoun, but in Becker's time to a he pronoun. And this is him working from where he is in the moment to then a particular interlocutor, imagined or real, or bringing in a conversation into his writing that night after the conversation, and then to the person in general. This is the way he thinks. And the danger here, of course, is to generalize too much from one's own experience. And I think Becker can, in certain senses, be criticized for that. However, remember again, his locus, his agential locus, his locus of human agency, is not in the individual. It's in the situation that we find ourselves in. And I think to the extent that you can identify with his depiction of the situation that we all find ourselves in, then this work can speak to you in a highly meaningful way. Despite his intellectualism and his intense scholarship, Becker's work life was a deeply personal search, especially during the so-called dark turn. Hopefully we'll find out more about the origins of this in your work, Greg, and in other work in the future. I want to share a couple of final things with you. The last slide, I think one of the last ones that you have, has 3 quotations on it, 2 from Becker and 1 from Sam Keen. And these just, I think, drive home the kind of experience that I've tried so, in a certain way, hard, and in another way, so inadequately to capture in Becker's Living and Dying at the end. The first one is in a letter again to Harvey Bates, dated early in 1971 on February the 8th. And Becker writes, "Alas, I have left the science of man far behind, I fear. I hope the youth don't consider my growth a betrayal, which is about their speed these days." Again, this kind of crankiness that he sometimes will have. "Anyway, I am out to please no one, but to save my own soul by trying really to understand this world. I don't want everlasting life. I simply want to approximate truth in this one, which is what I feel is necessary for minimal human dignity." When he's dying, his good friend Carl Peter visits him in the hospital. And this is a line that he uses in that talk. Becker keeps saying, I'm going to die with dignity. He said, well, what are you going to do? I'm going to die, and I'm going to do it with dignity. I'm going to do it seriously. This is the kind of talk that he is giving. The next quote is from the interview with Sam Keen. This is actually dated mid-January 1974. It's about a month and a half before Becker does die. "I think it is the task of the science of man to show us our real condition on this planet. I don't know where we are going to get, But I think truth is a value, an ultimate value, and false hope is a great snare. I think the truth is something we can get to, the truth of our condition. And if we get to it, it will have some meaning. It is this passion for truth that has kept me going. This is what he means by truth. It's not a Platonic truth after all, really. It's this truth. And then this beautiful quote from Sam Keen that made me tear up when I just watched it recently. And I think it's just so adequate and so apt. He is being interviewed on January 30th, 2007. You can find this online. And he says about Becker, he was a man who thought with everything in him. He was no academic dilettante. He thought with his life. And I think that's really lovely, and that's where I'd like to leave things. Thank you.